These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
Now, how about them damn Celtics?
And we are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here
Monday.
recording on Monday, July 31st. I knew you were going to say it, as I didn't even pronounce 31st correctly, but July 31st, we are here recording for you. We're recording on Monday. You're seeing the Sunday or Tuesday, obviously. I'm a mess, as you can tell. I've had a long day. I was up
to go outside
early.
today, Jack.
I know. Disaster day.
It's like when you drop your phone in water. When you put Jack out in fresh air, he gets all screwed up.
I'm so sunburnt. I got so burnt because I've never. You know what's the best part? So I have I always wear socks, right? Just because, like, obviously, right, in all the places. But at the beach, you don't. But I had a nasty farmer's tan from golfing all the time, and so when I took my socks off at the beach, I have a gross sunburn, like in the place where my sock was. It might be the worst sunburn I've ever had. It is tomato red. I'll show you. But
my friend Ray, who you know. He went to the beach yesterday and he showed up to basketball, and his sunburn versus non-sunburn, like tan line, was the craziest thing I've ever seen. He just showed like his leg, and it's like, oh my God, it's like somebody like put tape on your leg and painted.
Yeah, mine's pretty bad. I have one on my shoulder. I wonder if you can see it on the camera. You see the line?
I see the tan line, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little burn here, and then tan gets down there. But anyways, Sam's phone going off. I can, yeah. Sam's Siri started talking to you.
Fuck off, Siri.
Hanging out. But we do actually have Celtics news. I promise you, we're not going to bore you with an hour and X amount of minutes of boring beach stories. But we're going to open with the quote from Joe Mazzulla. I believe this is from the Jaylen Brown press conference. Right, it's a little bit old, but it is relevant for the topic of conversation. This is Joe Mazzulla talking about the Celtics in general. We have the ability to play small. We have the ability to play big. And so with some of the changes that we made, it opens up a lot of opportunities for Derek Payton and Malcolm Brogdon. And so I think that's really important, is that those three feel like we have an opportunity to grow with them. We have an opportunity to help them on both ends of the floor. Those three guys at the guard spot is a part of our identity and a part of where we need to get to on offense and defense. The most interesting, and I do want to get into talking about how many minutes each of those guys will get, what role they'll play, etc. But one of the most interesting things to me is this was the same press conference where he talked about how they're mending the relationship with Brogdon, right?
Correct. This is the back end of that quote.
For him to, and also you can lump Pritchard into this too, because there have been some question marks as to whether or not he'll be with the team. Him saying, I think it's really important that those three feel like we have an opportunity to grow with them. Maybe it's just my knee-jerk reaction, but to me that screams, please God, don't want to leave. Is that me? That's what it sounds like in tandem with the other quote.
I think it's a reasonable thing to think, especially with the circumstances where, Brogdon might be a little pissed off that you tried to trade him and everybody knew about it. It's been something I've been harping on for a while. So you don't want to lose any of these guys as you roll into a season with high expectations. You have to have some sort of guard depth. And even if you lose Pritchard, to go into the season with only two guards remaining of a four-guard rotation, I guess, last year.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like, wow, like that's a big chunk of your team that you lost at a spot where you were the deepest in the league, and it was really impressive. The different combinations of guards you could roll out there this year. You're going to be really thin. I guess you have Banton there to back them up, but let's see how good he's going to be. He looked okay in the summer league, but there's a reason he's playing in the summer league still. There's a reason why Toronto didn't bring him back and he didn't last there. Toronto, by the way, with no guards.
Mm. Yeah, no, I know. And this is you're going to laugh at this and say, like, who cares? Because it's just like a very niche, stupid point that I like to make. It feels like, obviously they have JD Davison, right? On a two-way, and that's fine. It feels like they should almost bring in another guard on a two-way, and obviously a two-way guy's not going to play, but you know how Michael Mulder was on the summer league team? I don't think he's the perfect option, but bringing in an older young player that seems at least a little bit more capable than JD Davison right now, because he looked rough in summer league. He was not very good in summer league at all. And so bringing in somebody who can at least handle the ball a little bit and defend the guard position for that two-way spot, because I don't think the Celtics need to waste another standard spot on a point guard right now. But let's say Pritchard or Brogdon do grow unhappy, having somebody at least on a two-way with the team. Like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but bringing in somebody like capable of handling the ball, playing some defense, it just seems like it could be a pathway.
Two-way guys off the top of your head.
No, I can't just rattle
30
off
of them.
Two-way eligible guys. But
somebody's just been spending too much time at the beach.
Yeah, that's
not
yeah,
doing the
right.
homework.
No, like it feels like they should use the 15th spot on either a
Uh,
veteran, a vibes guy, or a center. And then like I do think an okay option for that two-way spot is bringing in some like how the Warriors had Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome, or in the Heat had Caleb Martin on a two-way deal. You know what I'm saying? Like capable guys who can give you minutes in the right spot. And I'm not saying the Celtics should lean on that, but as like a safety net if Pritchard or Brogdon grow unhappy.
well, I'll say this. To your point, I think JD Davison is approaching get ready to learn Chinese buddy territory because listen, he's only 20, so it's a bit harsh. But it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like he's taken the step forward that the team might have hoped over the summer, where shows up to summer league, plays okay, and then starts to drop off. Like he had that double-digit turnover game, which was absolutely bonkers for us to have to recap.
Yeah.
Coming into the summer league, we were like, oh man, like this is going to be his coming out party where we're like, this guy's awesome. What's going to happen between him and Pritchard? Who's going to win the battle there? Like we thought we might get that question. Instead, we're having a conversation. Do the Celtics need to bring in a second two-way guard because JD Davison has been so disappointing? So if that's the case, maybe. But the tough part of that is you already guaranteed him a two-way contract, JD. And I know your point was
bring both.
get rid of him.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to be able to diversify the two ways instead of having two guards on there. At this point, you're right. Who cares? I mean, I don't really care.
I know. Yeah, I knew.
But I think there is a valid point that you make where, okay, you can't rely on JD Davison. Do you need to take another shot at somebody? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. And unfortunately, doesn't look like there are many two-way eligible point guards. McKinley Wright is the best one I'm looking at that has any sort of NBA experience. You could bring Matt Ryan back though; he's two-way eligible still.
I would take Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan would be cool. You could also technically, Trendon Watford is two-way eligible. So I'm not saying, but I'm saying no. But back to the Joe Mazzulla quote about the Pritchard, White, Brogdon. I do want to also talk about who you think gets the minutes. Obviously, they've named Derek White the starting point guard. Malcolm Brogdon's going to reassume that six-man role, and then Pritchard will be there to back them up. What do you see the minutes being heading into next season? I mean, you look at the roster this past year. I'm trying to pull it up with one hand because I'm holding the mic with one and then I'm I'm on my laptop. This is a very different setting for me. But you look at the minutes this past season. Marcus Smart had 32 a night, Derek White 28, Malcolm Brogdon 26. Do you think they just step up and take on each other's roles? Like, okay, Derek White maybe gets 32, Brogdon gets 28, and then Pritchard, I don't think he'll get up to the 26 that Brogdon played, obviously, because Kristaps is going to get minutes too. But like, does Pritchard play 20 plus minutes tonight? Like, what are you looking at? I think Derek White should absolutely play 30 plus just based on how good he's been. And the fact that he didn't last year is kind of surprising to me. And then Brogdon could probably encroach upon the 30-minute mark as well, although you might want to ease him a little bit because of the injury history. But Pritchard's the wild card for me because I've talked about how I think he should get more minutes next year. But where do they come from? Like, does he get 20? Does he get 15? Is it too sporadic that he wants out? Like, Furkan Korkmaz requested a trade last year. Does Peyton Pritchard request a trade this year? Like, you know what I'm saying? I was just using that as before I said Pritchard could request a trade. People say, oh, that's ridiculous. Letting you know that it's happened before.
Well, Korkmaz did not get his wish. Just for those wondering. I mean, he doesn't really have the leverage to force his way out of town. We did get a little bit of a tidbit of a report from The Athletic right after the season wrap that Pritchard was probably done, didn't want to be here anymore, but then they traded Smart. So things have changed. In terms of the minutes, I think White sees that happen.
Has we gotten a report saying Pritchard's back in? I'm not questioning you because like I feel like the general assumption is, oh, Smart's gone, Pritchard will probably get more minutes. Have we gotten a report saying he doesn't not want to be? You know what I'm saying? Have we gotten that confirmation yet?
Well, I don't think it was officially out that he wanted to be traded, but the expectation was he wouldn't be there if there was no time for him.
Okay.
So maybe now and don't quote me on the first part of this little thing, but now there's actually time for him. It makes more sense for him to be somewhat satisfied because in the past, we've gone back and forth and been like, well, what team does he actually start for, get real minutes for? And we never end up finding ourselves a concrete answer to that question either. Just because there's so many talented guards in the NBA now that it's like, oh, well, there's no guarantees no matter where he goes. So maybe he doesn't want to leave the Celtics. But to swing back to the minutes, White definitely sees the chunk of them. 33, 34 probably. They're going to try and get him out there as much as they can. He hasn't been a guy that deals with a ton of injuries. He played all 82 games last season, so he's proven to be durable. And he doesn't seem to get affected by fatigue, which is a good thing. Brogdon, maybe up towards 28. I could see it being the same because I don't think they want to decrease his role. But I wouldn't be shocked if he sees maybe less than we expect and Pritchard sees more than we expect, solely because they want to keep Brogdon fresh.
Don't overload
Even
him,
though
yeah.
he played, 65, 66 games last year, whatever. Oh, no, he was in the 70s, correct?
67. No, you're right the first time. But that, in your defense, that's the most he's played since his rookie season. So
right.
That's a big
and then
deal.
he had the wheels come off in the conference finals, oddly enough, on his forearm and not his legs, which is what you usually expect the wear and tear to rear its head at. But it was the forearm that he just couldn't shoot anymore, and he tore his forearm. So maybe they try and alleviate some of that stress on Brogdon by running Pritchard out there more. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. And I suppose Banton does have to be a discussion piece of this, where does he see 8 to 10 minutes a night?
He's Luke Cornett for the guard position, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's what he's.
Well, he has potential though. He's fun.
Well, Luke Cornett played in. It wasn't meant as a slightly. Luke Cornett played in 60+ games last year. Like, I think Banton could get a lot of run. I just don't think much of it will be significant, which is fine.
Yeah,
but
I think if you have Banton out there and he actually is able to show you something, he's real house money type win.
Found money, absolutely.
6'9", can handle the ball, like get out in transition, like we saw when we did the little they signed him. Let's look at his highlights. He looks like he could be very fun. So why not trot him out there, especially when a guy like Brogdon is probably going to see some load management throughout the season.
Absolutely. I think it's at least interesting, and I do agree with your point. I do think Pritchard could see more minutes than a lot of us expect him to see, which is good for him. But moving on, this next thing we have is something we have talked about in the past, but there was a new sort of spin on it, and so I at least wanted to bring it up. And Sam, you threw it on the show sheet. Do you want to lead it off? It's from Brian Robb's mailbag from Mass Live, I believe, right?
Yes. So Brian Robb, I believe this was Friday or Saturday, he put out a mailbag for Mass Live, like Jack said. And somebody asked him about Oklahoma City having 20 players on the roster.
Which is a lot.
He went into detail because the write-in question person asked him if the Celtics could get in on this. The reader. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. There's definitely some intriguing talent there that could be let go, and a good chunk of the league will be watching to see how the Thunder handle it. Technically, they don't have to do anything until the regular season, but some players will undoubtedly be looking for a chance to find a new home before then. The Celtics could entirely make a trade offer for some guys on rookie scale deals. He puts in parentheses, Pokusevski could be available. How do you like that pronunciation? But it's hard to envision the Thunder trading any one of use to the Celtics for more second-round picks when they already have a ton more in their cupboard. Victor Oladipo feels like an easy cut because he's hurt. And the Rockets' first-round picks, Garuba and Washington Jr., do I know what their first names are? You bet I don't. Are probably
Garuba and Ty Washington.
Well. See, there you go. Jack was at the beach today. He didn't have all the two-way guys, but he was ready. After that, one more intriguing name could become available, but barring a trade, the Celtics will have a tough task, offering much more opportunity to anyone who hits the market. And if it's young players, you have to imagine that's what they're looking for in the league. I don't know if any 21-year-old's ready to go ring chase.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the biggest reason I was intrigued by this being on the show sheet is because of the Pokusevski angle. I do think that's something that it's at least more intriguing because for the same reason we were more interested in Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, because the position of kind of need. Like, the Celtics roster is pretty solid right now. Like, realistically, all of our, do they need this? Do they need that? Is for their third string everything. Like, the roster's solid, right? We can say that. The question marks are, does this person want to trade? And then you figure it out from there. But right now the roster looks good. But if I had to nitpick, I would probably want an extra big because of the injury concerns at that position. In that case, I like Robinson-Earl, and for those same reasons, I like Pokusevski. I don't know if he would have a future with the Celtics unless he's on like another cheap deal after this one, but he's long. He can shoot a little bit. He can, do some stuff. He's just intriguing and fun. And I think it would be fun to have Pokusevski in a Celtics uniform. Outside of that, I don't know how much there is to steal from the Thunder's roster. We've talked about Aaron Wiggins as a guy who could get let go. Meh. Garuba in Washington. I actually wouldn't hate Usman Garuba. I don't know how familiar you are with Usman Garuba. He's an undersized guy, but he was praised heavily for his defense coming into the NBA. Didn't get a ton of run in Houston, but he is an undersized center, very athletic, can defend. He's not ready. Like, he's not an NBA guy, but just bringing him in as like a two-way player. Like, I wouldn't hate him for the third two-way spot. He's intriguing as well. But I mean, how can you not, talk about Poku? I just think Poku's fun. I just think that'd be cool.
Yeah. I think he's able to do a little bit more than your generic big too. I mean, he's skinny as hell, so he's not going to be playing a whole lot of defense down low, but he can shoot okay. I think he had a decent game against the Celtics. One of those games that they punted against OKC where they really should have won. I think he had an okay night, but he can shoot the three okay. He's long. All the things you said, it's a good addition to the Celtics if they can manage to get him. I don't know how excited OKC would be about whatever the Celtics can give them in return. Like Rob says, do they really need more picks? OKC, who owns the whole draft for like the next 3 seasons? Probably not. Are they looking for a Pritchard? Maybe, because we've talked about that before, but really, where does he fit? Who else would they maybe go after? I can't imagine anybody. All the other guys
Robinson
that are tradable. No,
that's about it.
The Thunder in return.
Nothing. Pritchard and picks is probably all it would be. They wouldn't really want anything else, I don't think, unless they want like Sam Hauser, Jordan Walsh, and at that point, no, like it's just not worth the Celtics trading it.
Sam Hauser, good value contract. That is for sure.
That is. Speaking of Sam Hauser, phenomenal segue from us. Look at us go. I don't even think we did it on purpose.
No, we
Wayne
sure didn't.
Wayne Spooney of Celtics blog recently wrote an article. Go check it out. It's called "Sam Hauser Can Seize the Day and Become a Full-Time Member of the Band." It came out July 30th. Go read it. We're just going to riff off it because we thought it was an interesting topic. Basically, Wayne talks about, I'll read a little paragraph here, which brings us to this upcoming season, Hauser's chance to become an irreplaceable member of the band. It's not without worry, though. The rosy numbers cited above regarding his impact on the team are primarily due to the defense improving, blah, 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 talking about his solid defensive play and Hauser Island and all the shooting stats. He broke it down. Again, go read Wayne's piece. So we're not here to, steal it and read it on the podcast. But I do think the idea of him, no theft here. I do think the idea of Hauser getting more minutes is intriguing, though, because obviously Celtics traded Grant Williams this summer, and you've seen them quote unquote replace it with, Porzingis is obviously going to get minutes, but if you really think about it, he'll probably get a large chunk of the minutes Smart got, and then the Grant minutes will probably go among the wings and the guards and Pritchard and all the stuff, and it'll be broken up. And it's not a perfect science. Like, you don't just take Smart's minutes, give them to Porzingis, you take Williams minutes and you give them to this person. But Hauser was really good last year, and I don't think it got enough credit because of A, the way the Celtics went out, and B, how many other players were good during the regular season, right? Like Brogdon shot the ball super well in the regular season. So did Horford. At the beginning of the year, Tatum was the MVP of the league, right? Like, everyone had their stretch, and there was that stretch early in the season where Sam Hauser was the second coming of Ray Allen, but he cooled off a little bit and people sort of forgot, but he still had a phenomenal season for the Celtics last year shooting the ball. He was not terrible on defense either. He had a really cool game with some really cool dunks at the end of the season. I think he should be a regular member of the rotation on a nightly basis. Like, I think the best way to phrase it, I don't think he should get DNPs. Like, I think he's too good for DNPs at this point. I think he should be getting, not saying he should play 30 minutes a night, and even 20 minutes might be too much with how jam-packed the Celtics rotation is, but saying Sam Hauser should get at least 10 to 15 minutes a night might be even too low. Because what did he end on last season? I'm curious to see how many minutes Hauser played last year. I can pull it up right here. He played in 80 games for the Celtics last year and played 16 minutes a night. You're telling me that's not going to go up to 20 this year? Like, he was he
certainly earned it.
He was a remarkably consistent player. He shot 4 threes a night in 16 minutes. He was shooting a 3 every 4 minutes he was on the court. He shot 42% from deep. And of all the games he played in, I'm just going to pull this up here quick so I can fact check myself. he played in 80 games, and the worst 3-point percentage he had, like he shot 40% or better in like over half of them. Like he was extremely consistent and absolutely deserves to be a regular member of the rotation. And as much as I want to see Jordan Walsh get minutes, and I think Oshae Brissett's cool, Sam Hauser should get the large majority of those minutes Grant Williams is leaving behind.
I think this is an interesting angle for a story, right? Because all of the talk has been on everyone not named Sam Hauser in terms of backup wings. Hauser, like you said, played a consistent role for the Celtics last season.
Forgotten about.
That is until the old playoffs roll around there. Then they said you're not going to play very often. Went down to 7 minutes a game in the playoffs.
Get ready to learn the bench, buddy.
Yes, get ready to sit and watch, buddy. But going back to the regular season, if my basketball reference would let me do so, he was consistent. Like you said, he was out there for about 16 minutes a night. He was reliable. You could count on him to not only make his shots, but move off the ball and get himself open. And he was a reliable safety valve for guys like Tatum and Brown as they collapsed and drove into the lane and got the defense to suck in and draw the gravity of the defense. Or I said that wrong. Doesn't matter. He was effective. And that's the important part. And he wasn't able to be targeted on defense, which is what everyone says when they look at him. Like, look at this guy. There's no way he can defend. And then they try it 3 or 4 times. The opposing offense gets out of its
Hauser
rhythm.
Island.
And he earned his minutes. With Grant Williams gone, you're absolutely right. There is a void there. I'm not so sure that the smart minutes go to Porzingis. I think there is a chance where White gets the smart minutes, Brogdon keeps his minutes, Pritchard sees some more.
In my head,
in.
I didn't say it well. In my head, I more meant like Smart played 32 minutes. I feel like that's probably around what Porzingis will get. Like, I don't think it's a direct comparison, like in terms of the lineups. I was just saying, okay, Porzingis will probably play around 32 minutes a night. That's a good number for him. So like that was the connection I made in my head. But no, I agree. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I think not having Grant Williams is what affects Sam Hauser, which obviously you said, and it's not rocket science. You don't need a degree to tell you that that's
buddy, give me my credit. Come on, it was a good point by me. Let's not call me stupid here.
Bench guy goes, bench minutes open, eureka.
Hey man, I'm Albert Einstein out here. Give me some credit.
It's okay.
Actually, Wayne Spooney. I'm stealing the secondhand Celtics blog article. Wayne Spooney. This is him. But no, Sam Hauser was good. Like talking about it now, reflecting on it, it was really forgotten about just how good it was. And you made a great point. Like, everyone's talking about Brissett, everyone's talking about Jordan Walsh, everyone's talking about all these new guys that could get minutes. Sam Hauser's chilling there, shot 42% from deep, quietly averaged 6 points and 2.5 rebounds, shooting 45%, 42% on an Eastern Conference Finals team in 16 minutes a night. When Sam Hauser started last year, let me fact check myself. How many games did he start last year? Do you have it pulled up?
8.
8 starts last year.
Sam, that quick.
No, I know. I didn't. I was about to put the mic down. Stats in starts. Sorry, I'm one hand typing here, but you guys are along for the ride.
Me to look this up.
No. Last year, the listeners will enjoy me typing. Hopefully, in his 8 starts this past season, he averaged 33 minutes a night. He averaged 15.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shot 48.4% from the field, and 45.5% from deep on 9.6 threes a game. He took 10 threes in his starts last year and shot 45% on them.
That's crazy.
That's incredible.
And the really encouraging part about Hauser continuing to be productive and efficient as he gets more minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the opposing team sees him out there for more than 15 minutes and is like, oh, this is what that guy's good at. No, they see him walk in the gym and they say, oh, this is what this guy's good at. So they know he's going to be able to shoot the ball, and they're still not able to knock him off his game to make him uncomfortable. He's been consistent across 8 starts, like you just explained. If he sees an increase in minutes this season, you as a fan and us as writers should expect to see him continue to be efficient. And if that's the case, then you might feel the loss of Grant Williams a little bit less. It could be a very good way for it to have the blow be softened for the Celtics.
Sam, what was their record when Sam Hauser started last year?
Oh, let's see. They beat the Knicks. I'm gonna guess 5-3.
7-1.
Okay, that was close.
7-1 when Hauser starts, and the one loss, for what it's worth, I believe this is the Bucks game that went to OT.
Oh,
Valentine's
when he hit the shot to send it to overtime.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. I think that's right.
I think.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this. Why do you think he didn't play in the playoffs? I have my answer. I'm curious what you think.
I think, to be honest, I think it was a mentality that let's play just our best players, and they're like, okay, that is Tatum, Brown, Smart, Horford, Rob, Brogdon, and who am I forgetting?
Rob Brogdon.
They're top
Smart.
7, basically.
Smart, Brown, Tatum.
They're top 7. The starters last year plus Brogdon and Rob off the bench. That is Derek White. I probably didn't say. That is their top 7. And then past that, it was whoever can give me 5 minutes. And the next up was Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard for whatever. But I really think Joe's plan was just, we're going to go with the 7 guys. And unfortunately, they didn't shoot well. And that was it. Like, as much as you want to say, Jaylen Brown struggled with his handle, Jason Tatum didn't score in these quarters in these series, which was incredible that he just decided not to score in specific quarters in each series. A lot of it was the 2 of the top 10 3-point shooters in the NBA shot like 30% from 3 in the playoffs. Like that's you're gonna lose. Like I'm sorry. And as much as the defense was bad, like they could have had a better chance with the defense, but if your top 2 3-point shooters in Brogdon and Horford go from shooting 45% to 30%, you're not going to have a very fun time. Like that's just what it is. And I think that's where I think Joe has a lot of room to grow, is those in-game adjustments, because at that point, like, give Grant more minutes, give Hauser more minutes, give Pritchard more, give your other shooters on the roster of lots of shooters more minutes. And I think that's just a part of it. I think he really wanted to stick to that 7, maybe 8-man rotation. And it ended up biting him in the ass because, as you can see, and as we just talked about, they could have used a little bit more shooting on the floor when those guys weren't hot. And as much as it sucks, and I think some teams are reluctant to do it, there's times where you just got to bench one of your starters for somebody who has it that night. Like as much as you don't necessarily want to bench Brogdon or Horford or whatever. Like there's a line, obviously you don't bench Jaylen, you don't bench Tatum, as much as we talked about wanting to bench those guys at times out of frustration. Like there's a certain level, like you don't bench Steph Curry if he shoots 4 for 20, but for Horford and Brogdon, like at some point you just got to realize, okay, maybe let's give Hauser a try. And I think it was just the reluctance to go past that set number rotation, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
I think it was a trust thing with experience. So everybody Joe rolled out there has played in real playoff games, right? Hauser hasn't. Even Pritchard, right? Pritchard was good in the playoffs for the Celtics when they made the finals last year until the finals. He had seen like Pritchard could perform, so it makes sense why he would trot him out there over Hauser. Again, it's kind of weird that he didn't trust Hauser, who was nothing but efficient and reliable and consistent throughout the regular season.
It was money.
Right? But that was my take. I was like, oh, wow, like maybe Joe doesn't think he can hold up on defense in a playoff situation, or he'll get targeted differently, or
that's what I was going to say.
Want to screw around and find out in this playoff run when all the eyes are on the Celtics. It was the Celtics title to lose. That was the talk coming into the playoffs, especially after that first round where Milwaukee just gets bounced.
Yeah.
And then they don't get the job done. But Joe didn't want to be the reason why it happened.
Ironically.
Even though, yeah, right. People are like, well, he should have been fired because he played Hauser, right? He was just instead just married to the 3-point shot, which is something you mentioned. And it's funny that, you know, you're like, well, you know, if the 2 guys don't get cold from 3, then they probably win. It's true. But that's why defense rules, because you don't really get cold on defense.
Well, it's less. We've had this debate a million times. And I do think the point about Hauser.
The closest thing to getting cold on defense is seeing the other team get hot offensively. And
that's what I was going to say.
Miami.
Yeah.
But that is super rare. Like what you saw in the conference finals against Miami, where Caleb Martin became a superstar, Gabe Vincent was giving you buckets every night. That's not a thing that happens all the time in the NBA.
No. And that's not to crap on those players.
Maybe in
you give
one
them credit.
game.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And I think what you said about Hauser rings true is like there is a lot more targeting on defense in the playoffs. Like they probably would have just gone at him. But the thing for me is, and it's always been like this, as much as, and I mean, realistically, you can tie this back to, we talked about Dwayne Wade's comments on Jason Tatum. We talked to Bobby Kravitsky. Shout out Bobby, friend of the show, on the show, basically, like Sam says.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade talked about like everything has to go perfect for a team to win the championship. And as much as you want to sit there and say, well, if they just defended better, they probably would have won. Like, I disagree.
Would have been cool.
But, sure. I disagree only because like everything has to go right. And the 3-point shooting did not even come close to going right. It was horrible. And for a team that, and let's not act like the Celtics were a bad defensive team throughout the year. They were the second best defense in the NBA last year. It's just the defense wasn't great in the playoffs and the offense wasn't great in the playoffs. And you could look to either one of those things, but as much as people disagreed with it, and I'm not saying I fully agree with it because I do think there needs to be a bigger emphasis on defense. The Celtics' identity last year was 3-point shooting. That it's just as you can disagree with it, you can hate it, whatever. That's what it was. And so if they're not going to shoot even close to what they shot in the regular season, they were not going to have a chance. Which sucks. But as much as I want to say, well, if they can only turn it on defense a little bit, they could have helped. Like it was cooked as soon as they shot 30% from deep against Miami. They were cooked. Like and it sucks. And I disagree with it, but yeah.
I'm afraid going forward that you're going to see more and more of the Celtics being disappointing because every year where they don't do it, the expectation becomes they're going to learn and they're going to do it next year. And it's like that. Essentially, it is like the experience we all went through in the playoffs last year where we're like, okay, like they got their ass kicked, but they're not going to let it happen again, right? And then it happens again and we're all like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's starting to happen with whole seasons. Because after the 2018 playoffs, everyone was like, oh my God, this team rules. They almost won with a bunch of rookies against LeBron. Then 2019 happens. That's a dumpster fire. Then Kemba comes to town. They turn it around, go to the conference finals against Miami, choke that away. Then they're like, oh, like, what's going on with the Celtics? Kemba's there. They have a year under their belt now. COVID screwed up the season, blah, blah, blah. How are they going to be the next season? Next season comes along, Kemba gets hurt, comes back when they're at the top of the conference. They were in first place when Kemba got back. Then they just slowly decline. Brown gets hurt. Playoffs are a wash. Last season, 2022, was probably the only time they exceeded expectations in, 6 years since the Isaiah Thomas year? That's probably it. It's been a road of disappointment. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen again. But my real point that I was going after was I feel like we keep getting disappointed because these guys feel like they've achieved more than they have, where they can just turn on a switch. That was one thing they always talked about, like LeBron teams, is, wait till the playoffs, wait till the switch. Celtics are trying to be a switch team, but they don't have a switch.
I don't even know if they're trying to be a switch team.
They want to be a switch team.
Well, want to, and I love how our conversation.
Let me tell you a little something about March. What was it? March 3rd against Brooklyn when they blew that massive lead. Oh, they did it again the next night and the night after. Like they had like a 3-game stretch of just dicking around the regular season. That's a team saying, we're bored. Give us the playoffs.
I guess, but like they were good in the regular season. It's not like they coasted through the entirety of the regular season.
They ruled.
They struggled at the end.
December? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
after that,
I don't know. It's weird, but I love how that's where our Sam Hauser conversation devolved into. We start talking about the past history of the Celtics. But next thing we have: did the Celtics get worse? And this is something we've talked about.
Trying to segue
very briefly, very briefly in the past. I think we did a video similar to this, but Bleacher Report put out an article called "Will Your Favorite Team Be Better or Worse in 23-24?" Obviously, the Celtics were included in that. The article was by Dan Favale of Bleacher Report, one of the legends. Thank you, Dan, for giving us content. And he thinks the Celtics will be worse. And I'll read his argument and then we can talk about it. Saying going from Marcus Smart to Kristaps Porzingis is splashy on paper but iffy in practice. Celtics surrendered playmaking and defensive versatility for higher end front court play, mostly on the offensive end. disagree with that. Reasonable gamble based on how Porzingis played last year, hitting his triples. Boston can't guarantee he gets that version of KP, lower body injuries, blah, blah, blah. Even if Porzingis puts every concern to bed, Smart's absence plays an additional playmaking pressure on Brogdon, Jaylen Brown, Pritchard, Tatum, and Derek White. It's a real strain. Perhaps the Celtics fail to master 57 victories from last year, but are more dangerous come playoff time. For now, they still feel like they need another move. And I just really couldn't disagree more with Dan Favale on this one. And this is coming from a guy who loves Marcus Smart. And we've talked about how much we value Marcus Smart. But Derek White was phenomenal as a playmaker when he was the point guard last year. Malcolm Brogdon has been a great playmaker in the past when he's been giving him the chance to play that role. Jason Tatum is improving as a playmaker every year. Jaylen Brown is there. And then Kristaps Porzingis is like, I understand the injury concerns, but saying who knows if they'll get this version of Kristaps, like even if they get a smaller version of that, that's still a star center. And to say like the point he made about like sacrificing point guard for improving front court play. Yeah, because they had a lot of point guards and they had 2 centers on the roster capable of giving you regular quality minutes. And so now they have I guess they just switched it. Now it's 2 high-end guards and 3 high-end big men, but I'd rather have the 2 high-end guards and the big men considering the injury history of Rob and the age of Al Horford. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people are being very dramatic. And I understand it from the perspective of Marcus Smart's leadership, but this article didn't even talk about the off-court stuff. It was purely on-court. And saying that the Celtics need another move, I think is just disregarding the playmaking of Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon.
So I actually somewhat understand the angle here on
I get the argument.
They're going to be worse.
I get the argument. I just disagree.
The reason why I think it's more likely that they will be worse than better is not because of the moves they made, but because of like the actual, okay, there's X amount of ways that they can be worse, but only like 2 ways they can be better. The only 2 ways that they're going to be better is by making the finals or winning a championship. Other than that,
I mean,
you're in that at the end of the day is what we're all looking at.
Well, he's talking about win totals. He's talking about win totals,
I
though.
don't give a fuck about win totals.
Well, that's what the article's about.
Well, he's wrong. Don't measure the win total. But seriously, every time we talk about this, I get worked up. I'm mad that they traded Marcus Smart, and my end of the day take is they just better win. If you win a championship, no one will care. If you don't win a championship, then people are going to talk. They're like, wow, the Celtics really went all in, and they didn't get what they were going for. Didn't happen. Instead, they trade away this guy and blah, 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 blah. People will digress. There's not a massive probability that they win a title. They are title favorites, but like you say, a lot of things have to go right for you to win a title. Does that mean it's going to not happen for the Celtics? Does it mean that not necessarily? We don't know yet. That's why they play. But if they're going to be worse, they can do that by not making the playoffs. They may do that by losing the first round, losing the second round, losing the conference finals.
Whoa. Not making the playoffs. Let's calm down there, buddy.
Who knows
Pal.
what
Come
happens?
on.
That would be some shit, huh?
Clip this. No, I understand the concern. I just disagree. I don't think Porzingis will pump out the same Wizards numbers because that would be foolish.
Doesn't have to.
Like,
does not have to.
That's what I'm saying. And I think a lot of what this comes down to is people somehow discounting, and this is coming from me, Brogdon and White and how good they are. And I've been overly critical of Brogdon. We've talked about it. Like I
it evens out because you're very high on Derek White, which you're not wrong to be.
Not even. Like
no, that's
I
your guy.
Brown during the Brown extension. No, I'm saying not even like that. It's just the Derek White thing. Like I think Brogdon has a real chance to be as good as he was last year and more impactful, if that makes sense. Because like he was a phenomenal player last year in his role, but I think he has a chance to take on a larger role, which will not only help him but help the Celtics. He averaged 7 assists a game in Indiana. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but allowing him to be a playmaker more with the improved weapons. And I'm not going to put the ball in his hands every possession, but let him be a playmaker. Let Derek White be a playmaker. Malcolm Brogdon learns how to find Rob. It's over, right? Like I just think this article is discounting their playmaking prowess too much. And I understand the concerns about Brown as a playmaker, but I also think they should just not use him as an offensive initiator anymore. Like that, like it's just not him. Like let him be him, and that's fine, but don't try to put him in that role because we've seen it does not work. But this kind of ties into our next thing we wanted to talk about. I think is this the last Celtics thing we have?
Yes.
Before we dive into NBA, excuse me, NBA. Sorry about that. Somebody wrote an article. Bleacher Report put out an article called "The Weakest Link in Every Team's Starting Lineup." This one was by Andy Bailey of Bleacher Report, again, another Bleacher Report legend, and they said the weakest starter in Boston's. First of all, sorry, before we do that, they said DeAndre Hunter was the Hawks' weakest starter, and they also named Sadiq Bey in the starting lineup. That's crazy. But they said the Celtics' weakest starter is whoever starts at the 5, in reference to Robert Williams and Al Horford. And I think that's kind of obvious, right? Like that makes sense. Like it's Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, and Derek White. I would probably put them all above whoever starts at 5. But I wanted to use this as a springboard to talk about who you think should start at the 5. Why are you laughing at me? What do we?
Because I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the show sheet because you read what I put, but you just read it differently.
What do you mean?
Bleacher Report writes either Rob or Al Horford, whoever starts at center will be the weakest link. And I said, I guess that's pretty obvious when you think about it. Like, I sure fucking hope they're right, because if they're not, it's going to be a disaster. Like, if somebody in the starting 5 is worse, maybe Derek White, like, it means, like, those guys either stepped up big time or it's been a train wreck of a season.
I didn't even read that. That's amazing. But I wanted to use this as a springboard to talk about who you think should start at the 5, Rob or Al. I'm pretty sure, if I remember our past conversations, you're in the Al camp, I'm in the Rob camp. And I'd like to hear and I think I know your take, but I'd love to, let's hash it out. Give me your take here.
My take is just that Rob is a better fit off the bench. I think his energy, his play style, his lack of need of the ball, all of those things are really helpful to make him a plug and play guy where he doesn't have to be a part of the offense as a whole in the build up. And the consistency of being in the lineup at the beginning of the game. I don't think it matters. I think when you bring him off the bench, you get an added spark to your team. If you bring Horford on the bench, I'm not convinced you get that. Horford's not a guy that's ever really come off the bench in his career. Rob is the guy that's easier to plug in off the bench. He has a good energy about him. His athletic style of play, whether it's on defense or offense, is a great boost to the starting lineup as you take out presumably Al Horford or Porzingis. I mean, I guess you could really put him in there for either guy. He has the finishing around the rim, rim protection aspect of Porzingis, and he's the big guy aspect of Al Horford. So it really doesn't matter who it is. If you put him in, it's better than bringing Al off the bench. Al, who has almost never come off the bench in his career. I'm not convinced he's going to want to start right now. So I just think having Rob Williams come off the bench is more valuable than Al Horford. Horford is just not going to give you that same kind of energy. It's not going to happen.
See, I agree with your point that Rob is a better bench player than Al. And like you said, Al doesn't come off the bench. He never has. I just think the upside of a Rob Porzingis pairing in the front court in the starting lineup is too good to pass up on. And I also think they fit better on the defensive end, right? Like Porzingis is great in the drop. Al can switch a little bit, so they could make it work. But then you look at him year over year in the playoffs, him being Al. You look at him in the year they made the finals. He was good switching. He could get out there. He could give some help. And then you look at the past season, they went a little bit more to drop. He wasn't as great on the perimeter. And I don't think Porzingis is terrible as a perimeter defender, but I don't think he's great. You pair him with Rob, who's quicker, more athletic, can play off the ball, and then you allow Porzingis to play in the paint on those bigger guys, on Embiid and the Jokic's of the world, and play in that drop defense with Rob helping over. I think that defensive chemistry fits a little better. Offensively, obviously, you sacrifice some spacing, but also, and you can quote this and you can clip this, chat, I'll bet money that at points throughout the season, you see a Porzingis post move that draws a double team where he just does one of these, throws the ball over the back of his head for a lob Rob. Like like you can't leave him. You can't leave Rob because he's going to cut and he's going to get a lob. And if Porzingis can learn to find that, you're not going to be able to do much, because if he's in the post, Rob's cutting, whoever else they have on the floor can shoot. Right? Derek White can shoot. Brogdon can shoot. Tatum, Brown, Pritchard, like Hauser, everybody else can shoot. So, like, I don't think spacing would be an issue as much as Like, obviously, you lose the 5-out offense, but Rob can play in that. And I also think that it could be time to bring him off the bench, just to preserve him for the playoffs. And I think that's probably the best argument I have. Because go ahead.
You're going to see them start Horford to start the season, but I think by the end of the season it's going to flip, and it's going to be Rob. If I had to predict and guess, that's my guess. That's what I think happens.
Also, for what it's worth, the best version of Rob we've ever seen was when he was getting consistent starts in the year they made the finals, and then he gets hurt, and then you get him back in, in the playoffs, but he just wasn't the same. And then even this past year, he was good, but he wasn't the version we saw. I think you get Rob in there as the day one starter next to Porzingis. Even if you manage his minutes, him and Horford, like even if you play them both like less minutes than a lot of people would want them to play to keep them both healthy, I think you give Rob those minutes at the start because I think he might need it more than Horford does at this point in his career too. Just to be ready and to be the best version of himself.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is they're going to start Horford is what I think. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe they go on a skid. Maybe something happens to where they decide maybe this isn't the best way for us to go about our rotations. And then Horford becomes Grant Williams. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just don't know how fast it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to lean into it right away. I think they're going to see what they have left in Horford before they go into it.
I think they'll start Horford too. People are, are going to be mad at that Grant Williams thing. They're going to be mad at you for comparing him.
What do you mean? It's the same thing. I said this a million times. When Grant got traded, I was like, they're not going to miss Grant right away because they have all these big guys now. They don't necessarily need him yet, but eventually Al Horford's going to age out. Before he ages out, he's going to decline into a bench role. And then when he's not able to do that anymore, they're going to need somebody to fill the bench role, and that guy would have been Grant. That's where it's going to happen.
I agree with you.
Before he ages out, he becomes Grant.
Yeah.
Where he's there to shoot threes and try and play as much defense as he can.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I was just more saying because people aren't necessarily big fans of Grant and they love Al Horford. So it might not be your most popular take amongst the people.
Well, I'm not saying he's going to be, I'm not saying prime Al Horford is Grant. I'm just saying he's eventually not going to be effective anymore.
Of course. All right. That can wrap up Celtics. We can move on to the NBA. Let me change it to the blue for the people on the YouTube.
Turn it blue.
And I'm going to let you lead off here, Sam, because this is something you're very clearly passionate about based on the show.
Yeah.
So please hit me.
Well, it's another day, another Dame update, which is essentially nothing. Woj went on TV today and said the Heat are the only franchise to have made an offer for Dame since his trade request. And then I said, wow, what a shock considering he bullied other teams into not trading for him. This is what Woj said. Certainly Miami remains the team most motivated that has enough assets to eventually perhaps outbid the market. The problem is Portland looks at what Miami has, doesn't love it, and keeps hoping something better is going to come along. Miami's not going to bid against itself and keep upping its offer when it doesn't think Portland necessarily has anything comparable. That's why it's dragging out and why it may continue to drag out. Right now, there's just not been a lot of engagement among teams on a Lillard trade. So I'll say a few things. One, Miami is correct not to outbid itself. Portland is correct not to take a bad offer. The real movement will come when another team comes flying in and wants Dame.
But will another team come flying in?
I think nobody coming to fly in and being like, please give us Dame, says what we've been saying about Dame all along, where he's eventually going to be a negative asset. And any team that's competitive right now doesn't need to go after Dame because what they have is worth having over taking on a long contract that's going to hurt you.
I think it all comes down to Brooklyn. I think they're the only team that can push Miami on this.
Well, even Brooklyn,
they're the only team.
Like, Brooklyn doesn't have a reason to go all in right now. Why would they handicap themselves? They are a team that makes sense, a team that if Dame joins the team, they get bumped up a level. But does it really make them favorites?
No, but they don't have their own pick, so they have no reason not to be competitive. And they have a free, here's your trade thing in Ben Simmons. They can just hear
back.
This is true. My bad. You're so right. That's on me. That's on me.
Does Portland want Ben Simmons though? Like, all joking aside, like they don't want him.
Would you rather have Miami's package? Well, it's less about Ben Simmons. Would you rather have Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, and Phoenix picks, or would you rather have Miami's offer?
The Phoenix picks are fire, but
exactly.
And Portland is clearly not a team that cares about a bad contract. I'll tell you that.
This is also true. And
Dame,
realistically,
Jeremy Grant,
Ben Simmons' contract is slowly encroaching upon not bad contract, not because he's good, but because there's 2 years left. So next year it's going to be an expiring deal. So realistically, it's not the end of the world anymore. But yeah, Dame is firmly planted in Portland for now, and until Brooklyn or whatever other team, Pelicans, I think, are another one who you should eyes emoji because why not? Sam wants the Utah angle, but until then,
I just want him to be as miserable as possible.
And Utah's that team for you?
Yeah, he doesn't want to play.
I agree. All right,
like the opposite of Miami.
That's very true. It is as close as you can get. All right, the next NBA thing we have here, ESPN has a new broadcasting crew. Reports are indicating that Doris Burke and Doc Rivers are going to join Mike Breen on the panel, replacing Jeff Van Gundy, who got let go, and Mark Jackson, who will be shifted somewhere else or just
he's out.
Not a part of it. Out at ESPN. Okay, thank you for that update. I was harsh on Doris Burke in the playoffs. I think in hindsight, I think we were taking out some of our anger out on Doris Burke's commentary. Doris Burke's phenomenal person. I enjoy her games with Mark Jones, especially during the regular season. Plus Doc Rivers, who I don't have many memories of. You've told me that he was good on the broadcast.
I don't have memories, but everybody says he's good.
But yeah, I think this is a W. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with me. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, but Van Gundy was great and Mark Jackson, blah blah blah." They were fine. But when you can have memes about you of Mark Jackson saying random shit, Jeff Van Gundy saying random shit, and then Mike Breen talking about the game, which is just the best Twitter meme format on the planet, I think we can get a little bit of improvement in the broadcast booth.
No, that rule. That's what makes it good, is that they have a chemistry where they can talk about nonsense and have insight.
I don't know. There wasn't much. I don't know. I am happy with.
I mean, listen, Mark Jackson was annoying as hell. Loved LeBron. Like, he was big. Like, this guy's the greatest ever. Like, he would annoy the hell out of you on the broadcast, but that's the point.
I'm excited for Doris Burke and Doc Rivers.
I don't know. I'm kind of out on Doris after the playoffs.
I think I was too harsh on her, and I think we.
I don't know. Go back and look at some of it. I saw one on Twitter today where it was just like Tatum lighting up the Sixers in that game 6, and she didn't say a word.
I think everyone thinks she's against their team because she's from the area. She is a Celtics fan. Like,
she's a PC alum.
I think if anything, maybe she was overcorrecting. Like, she was trying not to be a Celtics fan.
Yeah, it's a good
because I also see on Twitter, I see Sixers fans saying, "Oh, Doris Burke's just gonna love the Celtics all day." So I do think it's a two-way street. Like, I think people just get mad when the broadcasters say something about the other team when they're losing, especially in the playoffs, like the Celtics were, because their team's losing in the playoffs. But I'm excited. I think it'll be a fresh look. I didn't dislike necessarily Jeff Van Gundy and or Mark Jackson, but I think this will be it'll be fun. I'm excited for a change of pace.
No, Van Gundy rules.
I also met Doris Burke very briefly. Actually, that's a lie. I didn't meet her. I spoke to her very briefly. She came up and said, "Do you know where there are tissues?" And I said, "No, I don't. I'm sorry." And she kept walking. And I was too afraid to say hello. That was the extent of our interaction. But and then I found the tissues like 2 seconds later. I have social anxiety. It happens. Blame COVID.
But you've asked questions in these press gaggles.
Well, yeah, that's different than introducing yourself.
Like, I've heard your voice on my TV.
Well, I know, but that's very different than like introducing yourself to a very famous person.
No, I get it. But it, like, listen, you're also like lobbing it up there for like Missoula to dunk on you if he wants. You know, like, there's still risk in that. There's probably like more of a risk that Missoula's a dick to you than Doris Burke.
But I don't care about that because like that is the presumption that I'm about. Like, I don't want to bother her. She's just going to better, but she just wanted some tissues. Like, I don't want to piss her off.
She bothered you.
Like, hey.
She could have ruined your day. You're still thinking about it now. No. She kind of did ruin it. She ruined your X amount of months.
I'm thinking about it now because I didn't introduce myself. Same thing happened with Brad Stevens. He walked by me in the hallway and he
Yeah,
I was just like, hi. Yeah, I said hi. He said hi, but I didn't realize it was Brad Stevens until he walked past me. And I was
Yeah,
like,
but
"Wait
that
a
is
second, I
probably the
didn't know it was
best possible first interaction you could have had with Brad Stevens.
True. Yeah, true.
Because he's
don't
like not like, wow, this kid's a fanboy. He's like, wow, that guy's so cool. He didn't even give a fuck that I'm Brad Stevens.
Well, I wanted to make connections and I didn't make a connection. All right, next NBA thing you have before we dive into more stories. Jimmy Butler wants a Jaylen Brown payday. This is from Ira Winderman, the South Florida Sun Sentinel, Heat beat reporter. Butler is going to look for an extension soon enough, in essence asking for something even beyond Jaylen Brown. One, I want to say that this conversation is useless because no shit, he's going to get more than Jaylen Brown because they're going to give him a max deal. And by that point, the super max he's going to get is going to be worth more than the one Jaylen Brown has. So, duh. Two, the conversation is, should he get that? And I'll start with my point because then we can talk about that. Three, yes, he should.
Well, here's the problem.
It's going to be a bad contract by the end.
Yeah, this is a different situation than the Jaylen situation, which
Completely.
I understand why it's being compared to because it's in the news right now. Like Jaylen is the topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy Butler is 33. After the 25-26 season, he's going to be what, 36? With an extension? What? For Jaylen money? What?
Yeah.
If I'm Miami, absolutely not right now. I'm waiting.
But they're gonna.
If he's at the end of his contract and he's still playing well, yeah, pay him, whatever. I am out on teams, any team, and I like Jimmy, extending players that are aging out of their contract before it's a given that they're going to be effective. Because it's not.
I understand that.
Look what they just had Lowry. They still have him.
I understand that, and you're going to disagree with what I'm going to say. You pay the star. I know he's old.
I get what you mean. It just depends if you want to be competitive. I get it. I think if you're actually, you know what? I think if you're a star at that age, that's when you start taking pay cuts if you want to compete.
I don't think he needs to take a pay cut because I think the Heat are set up to where they can just keep extending their star players without having
him and Dame can play shuffleboard together as they are in the
Bam
home.
too. I think Bam's going to be there and that'll be fine, but I know what you're saying. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting thing.
I just think with the new CBA, if you're Miami, you're handicapping yourself if you bring in Dame, let alone extend Butler. Like if you have Dame on your team, it's going to hurt you. And then if you're paying Butler a supermax level type extension,
yeah.
What are you going to do with the rest of your team? I know bird rights on Bam, right? You have to assume Hero's gone if they get Dame. I mean, what are they going to be able to do to bring in guys? I guess they don't have to do anything. They're the Heat, and they'll just pick up some guy off the street, and he'll be good. But
true,
it's a real question you have to ask yourself. Do I think Jimmy Butler should get shafted? No. Do I think Jimmy Butler should take a pay cut if he wants to compete? Yeah. I don't think it's fair to say he doesn't deserve the money, but the way the league works, it's not a reasonable ask to be paid that much money if you want to compete, especially if you're over the hump and past your prime, which as of right now, he's not, but in 3 years, he very well might be. Just look at what the NFL is doing with running backs.
This is true.
Running backs don't get money, and they're actually important because they don't want to use up the cap on guys that could get hurt and not be worth the money anymore. And that they feel can be replaced.
That's true. I think they'll pay him, but I just thought it was interesting. Anyways, the Mavericks are interested in Clint Capella. The Pelicans are looking for a center.
New trade rumors.
Yeah, I don't care. Mavs want Clint Capella. Pelicans want, a center. Jared Allen, Isaiah Stewart. We're going to go to the rat list. I don't care. Yeah, the Pelicans thing, but I don't care enough to spend time on it. Let's go to the rat list here. And let me change the screen. Yeah, go ahead, please. Please change it. Would you like to lead us off today, Sam, or do you want me to go first?
You can go ahead.
I'll go first as Sam tries to change the brand. Ratless seaweed. Seaweed's the worst. The only okay part about the beach is the ocean. I don't mind being in the ocean. I think it's fine. It's obviously cold when you get in there, but I have fun. We threw a ball around and played whatever. It's fun. It's fun. Seaweed is the worst. It shouldn't exist. It should be taken off the plant. It's horrible. It's just awful. Like there's nothing else to say. There's no redeemable quality about seaweed. None. Zero. Unless you're eating it and you're weird. for eating seaweed.
It's a weird thing. I don't think I eat seaweed, but like sushi stuff, like they use seaweed.
Okay, yeah,
for.
sure. Sushi's fine, but like ocean seaweed, farm it all. Get it out. Use it for sushi then. Get it out of the ocean. I don't want to step on it. It's gross. It's just not, I don't like
No,
it.
I agree. When I was a kid, I was like deathly afraid of seaweed.
Because it
like
sucks.
you would see that like floating around. It's like, oh my god, what is that?
Because it's
Then you have, like,
also. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, also ratless, the little rocks on the bottom of the ocean floor that just cut my feet when I'm walking around.
Well, it's not. I think this is more of just ratless the ocean and the beach. Like this is a beach ratless. You know where
Yeah,
you
sure.
don't get seaweed and rocks is the pool.
This is true. Also, anti-ratless though.
Pool.
Only fun part about the beach, we brought cornhole to the beach. I was nasty.
Oh, I like
today.
cornhole.
Cornhole fire. I was giving them the Mikhail Bridges celebration when I dunked it the other day. When I hit the.
I'll tell you what is the ratless game is Can Jam. Out on Can Jam, the frisbee.
I love Can Jam.
I don't care for it. I don't.
It's
like
only
because
I'm good at frisbee.
Why.
I'm good at frisbee. I can throw a frisbee 50 yards.
Would you do frisbee golf?
I didn't, but I think Henry taught me. I can throw like underhand, so I can throw really far. And
you do a super cool one.
Yeah, in gym class, that was the only like thing I was like redeemably good at. I'm not a very athletic guy, if you noticed. But I could throw it really far. And so every time we played ultimate frisbee, the gym teacher would be like, "Simon, get over here," because he didn't know how to say my last name, and he called me Simon. And so
a lot to ask.
That's all I could do. Yeah, right. But yeah, no, seaweed, out on seaweed, I guess out on the ocean. Even though I enjoy playing, like, you know, throwing shit around and the idea of the ocean, but the seaweed makes it no bueno, not fun. Not a
ratless my body, dude. I am just fucked. I had a protein shake today for like the first time in a week and a half because protein shakes have just been like ruining my day. And I don't know why, because I was drinking protein shakes like daily and I loved them. It was like the best part. I think I might have even talked about it on here.
Are you lactose intolerant?
No, I'm not even using milk.
Okay.
And
weird.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, all out of nowhere, I can't drink them anymore. It just it makes me ineffective. I'm like bedridden. Mm-hmm. I'm over it now. I'm on the show. We're doing all right. But my God, and then my leg is back. My muscles are all tight again. I'm stretching for 45 minutes a day before I go out for a run.
Damn.
And I'm still getting tight. Let's play basketball yesterday. I can feel my knee thing starting to come back. What the hell's going on? I'm not old yet. I'm 25. I'm not even 25.
We are old. I feel old all the time because my siblings.
We're younger than Tatum.
You don't have that. That's not like a redeemable thing. Tatum's young. Like that's we're older, but we're older than what? Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero just averaged 20 in the NBA, and we're sitting here.
No, but like what I mean is my body shouldn't be crapping out on me.
No, I know. Well, I mean, we can look at some other.
Wait, you
some
rolled
other guys
your ankle. That's like a thing. Like
I did, yeah. My ankle's
like
pretty bad.
An impactive like injury. Like this is a wear and tear. My shit's tight and I can't run.
Yeah. Get ready to learn Greg Oden, buddy. All right.
Yeah.
I'm ratless. First off, ratless myself. We signed up to play golf today, and I didn't realize it was a par 3 course, which means it was just all par 3s. So that was it would be fine if I like signed up to play a par 3 course, but like thinking that it was a normal course and then finding out, like I looked it up like an hour before I went and I realized, but and then ratless my sister and her friend who came with us. So Henry and I played, and my sister Grace and her friend Teresa came, and they just rode in a cart, like they were just hanging out, and it was fine. But I realized it was a mistake when on the second hole I missed the ball, hit it into the water, and I just hear behind, and they start laughing behind me, which is just like, if anybody who plays golf knows, like you get a little angry, like internally, like you're like, you have to like calm yourself down. So hearing people laughing at you when you hit a bad shot behind you is a disaster.
Can they play? Like, are they any good, or are they just laughing at you?
No,
like,
they can't.
You feel inclined to be like, you get out here, you do it.
Yeah, no, right. And then on the 10th hole, it was a very nice course. It was very nice. I'll show you a picture after this. It was like sick holes, and one of like a couple of them where you're up top, there's a river, like a little lake in the middle, and then the greens down below. I'll show you a picture. It was dope. On the 10th hole, it was a very steep hill, so we like shot up the hill, and I lost my ball, so I had to hit another shot, and I chunked it, hit it in like a little puddle, not even like a body of water. It was like a puddle in the ground. I was mad. I go to pick it up and bring it back and hit it again because it went like 2 feet. I just missed. And it starts rolling down the cart path. And so then I'm stuck in the limbo of, you know what I'm talking about? When you're trying to run downhill chasing out 20, it's like the most humiliating thing in the world.
Yeah, I could just see you be like, you see it start to roll. And you're like, wait.
Yeah, and I'm trying to chase it. And I finally grab it. And I'm about to pick it up. And I hear them laughing. Without even looking up, I go back to your cart before I look up. And I just hear them walking away because I knew I was going to get mad. So ratless them for mocking me. It was a fun day in the end, but it was just like I knew I get mad when I golf. Like I'm known. I try not to anymore, but I used to throw clubs a lot. But
not something I expected you to say.
I threw clubs, especially when I was younger and I was really
club
bad.
Across the.
I threw a club a couple weeks ago. I forget why, but we were playing. My brother and Henry and I were playing at a course near us that we'd never played before, but it was 95 degrees that day and it had rained the day before. So not only was the course wet, it was also way too hot and I was having a shitty day and I missed I had such a bad hole that I just picked up my ball and I got off the green. I just threw my chipping wedge into the ground and stuck in the dirt. It was a disaster, but yeah, no golf. I love golf though. I love it.
I'll tell you what, yesterday I had a lot of nothing to do. So I was driving around and I was like, okay, I'm going to get a donut and I want to try a new donut place. So I drive probably 20 minutes.
Ooh.
And I get there and there was a sign on the door that says sold out. Sorry. So ratless to that place. So I go next door because there's a bakery there and they have donuts. So I go in. Yeah. Ratless to businesses that have their door not go all the way to the ground. So there's a watch your step thing and I tripped on the way in.
Yeah.
So that was a good event. But yeah, so ratless driving across the state and they're just closed. Yeah, ratless to them having the door that sets me. I should have really hurt myself. And then
20 minutes is driving across the state for you. That's crazy.
That's how it is, dude. I drove all the way to Johnston. I was like, wow, it's a really far drive.
I drove an hour 30 to the Cape this week.
And then I got home and sat and watched TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anti-ratless the Cape. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a regardless of the beach. I know the beach has been fine, mostly because I'm enjoying cornhole. Ratless the sun for the sunburns. This is tough, but it's mainly my own fault for not going outside.
I haven't been burned yet. Actually, that's not true. I told you when I got that weird sunburn that you can probably still see the mark. And it's just a discolor. Oh, you can't see it. There it is.
Anti-ratless.
This was
yes. I see it. I always think it's a shadow on the camera. Anti-ratless outdoor shower. Fire. Outdoor shower is fire. Used it a couple times. But yeah, I think that's all I got. You got any more ratless? Any more stuff today?
Nope, just the one you cut.
Just the one I cut. Yeah. So you guys will never hear that story. It's gone. But yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap it there. I have to go get dinner with my family. We're going to get some pizza in Harwich if you're on the Cape. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Oh, shout out Joey Spatulas. I wore the food truck t-shirt to the beach today. Legend. Thank you. But thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to How About Them Celtics. We appreciate you guys very, very much. Leave 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a comment on YouTube. That's my favorite part of the day. I still read them here. So thank you very much. I'll let Sam take us home.
Hey, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you're watching, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join over 1,090 others. Hit the notification bell. Make sure you don't miss any of our daily uploads. You might have missed yesterday's because nobody watched it.
Yeah, please watch the videos.
Please watch
We're spoiled now. We got a 300 view video we'd be hyped about 6 months ago. Now we're
heated. We're like, what the hell? But yeah, if you're on the audio services, thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe or follow us there, rather. Leave a nice 5-star review. On social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, that's at How About Them C's. Facebook is just the name of the podcast. When Jack has the time, the shorts will go back up. He's on vacation now, so don't expect too much. Give the man a break. He works hard. You can follow Jack on Twitter at JacksOneNBA. You can follow me on Twitter at SamFranceNBA. That's it for us.
Taco, come on.
Taco's having some fun here.
That is bogus. These guys are ridiculous.